If we don't clean up this and we keep throwing trash on the planet will be just filled with trash and the planet won't be healthy.
Our planet versus plastics. Plastics have made our daily lives easier. But at what cost? Just a few minutes of use with an impact felt for centuries. But you can make a difference for our future, from what you can reuse to what you wear. Small daily changes can ensure that Earth is a cleaner, healthier place for generations to come. Why not start today? Thanks for joining us. I'm Storm Team 4 meteorologist Janice Huff, and welcome to our celebration of Earth Day, a day to shine a light on our home planet, to reflect on our ongoing commitment to keep it healthy and vibrant for many generations to come. Earth Day has become a global event with nearly 1 billion people around the world marking the occasion. Our focus today stays close to home in the tri-state area, where communities and neighborhoods are striving to make clean air, water, and land a priority through our everyday activities. The first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22, 1970. Its creation was the result of a massive grassroots effort to raise awareness of a mounting environmental and public health crisis. Gross contamination of our air, water, and land from decades of environmental abuse and neglect. Nationwide, 20 million people took part in the first Earth Day. From there, the movement took off, and we took action. Between 1970 and 1973, the Nixon administration created the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and Congress passed the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Endangered Species Act, 3 pieces of legislation that would change the environmental trajectory of our nation. The Clean Air Act was passed in 1970 and was aimed at reducing the concentration of chemical pollutants in our air that were literally choking us to death. Carbon monoxide, lead, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, fine particles, and volatile organic compounds. By 2020, we had cut their concentration by 78%. And studies commissioned by the EPA and the Natural Resource Defense Council estimate that roughly 370,000 premature deaths are prevented each year because of our efforts. The Clean Water Act came next, passed in 1972. Its aim was to cut wastewater contamination of our natural waterways. Not only has it led to safer drinking water, but it completely revitalized waterways like the Hudson River, which is cleaner, with more fish and more recreation than it had in the early 70s. By 1973, Congress passed the Endangered Species Act, which in the decades that followed is responsible for preventing the extinction of hundreds of species of plants and animals. Among them, the gray wolf, the bald eagle, and the humpback whale. That's a lot of progress in over 50 years. The challenge now is to keep the momentum going, and a big part of that is education. And most importantly, we need to educate our youth. Joining me now is our very own Dave Price. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Janice.
You recently went to Connecticut where some kids are studying the environment, right?
It's just a remarkable program. Sound Waters is actually teaching younger generations about Long Island Sound and the steps they can take to ensure its preservation. It's behind this building, steps from Long Island Sound and blocks away from downtown Stamford, that the next generation of environmentalists are suited up and ready to work. This is Sound Waters, a nonprofit that has been educating young people about science and the health of Long Island Sound since 1989. Lee Shemitz heads up the organization.
When a student comes to Sound Waters, what they're gaining now are the insights and skills to understand climate science.
The world has gotten very polluted, not just here in the United States, but also globally, and making a small difference, like picking up something small, can make a global impact.
Their mission is to teach tomorrow's environmental leaders the science they'll need to know. Christina Gens is one of the instructors.
Working with kids makes the science is really cool, but seeing their passion is what really makes it worth it for me.
So what we're doing is setting out plankton nets, right? And the idea is that we'll take these samples back to the lab.
Young students from around the area flock here. They come after school to stare through microscopes instead of at their iPhones, learning firsthand about the issues which face our planet and the solutions they can help create.
If the algae at those levels decline in population, we are going to see a decline in the production of oxygen, which would be absolutely catastrophic for Earth.
And learning about the environment at Soundwaters isn't just theoretical. It's not just in a classroom or in a lab. It's right here on the water.
The idea is to give practical science experience to these students. We want to take these students and give them the opportunity to actually experience science out in the field and give them the preemptively give them the toolkit to become scientists at a young age.
It's much different from school. Here you actually get to do things. You actually get to feel like you're making a difference.
Nothing short of a perfect program for many young people who live here and go to school here, but who might not otherwise be exposed to the beauty and fragility of the sound, which ripples against their neighborhood's shoreline.
We have some students who literally live 2 miles from here and don't know that the sound exists.
Half the kids here have expenses covered, so the program can truly be available to all who have interest. According to the EPA, the sound has fallen victim to pollution from sewage treatment plants, septic systems, and fertilizer and animal waste from the surrounding areas. And rising water temperatures have also affected life in these waters. Complex problems at crisis levels, but there is hope and marked progress.
I think these guys are going to do it. I think they're already being brought up with the mindset that this is something we need to fix and something we need to do better.
Our students are extraordinary. They find joy in the natural world. They see all the positive. They find value, they find challenge, they find hope.
These kids know that it's up to them now.
Are you changing the future?
Yeah, I would like to think so. Well, everything helps. Every little thing helps.
I think we can make a huge difference. The data we can collect can have a huge impact.
They know they're inheriting a very complicated and damaged world, and they want to understand it, and they want the tools to make it better.
I hope that 20 or 30 years from now, I am slowly climbing these stairs to recognize one of my former students who has truly changed the sound.
And may that come to pass. Soundwaters is working to build passion for the environment in students of all ages, from pre-K on up. From school trips to after-school programs to summer camp and vacation adventure programs, Soundwaters is able to inspire over 30,000 kids per year. How about that?
That is really an impressive number, Dave. And it's exciting to witness the next generation of environmental stewards in the making. They're a passionate group. They need to be, because we still have a lot of work to do.
And that's true. On Long Island Sound and beyond, not just in the waters, but on land as well. The most pressing work concerns center on global warming and climate change from the burning of fossil fuels. All right, so Janice, let's begin right now and take a deeper dive into the situation. Let's break down the problem into its basic parts. The main character in this story is carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. One carbon atom flanked by 2 oxygens. Simple, unassuming, but critical for regulating temperature here on Earth. It all comes down to balance. Sunlight shines down on the Earth, gets absorbed, and then re-radiated back into the atmosphere as heat energy. That heat would escape back into space if it weren't for greenhouse gases, which include mainly water vapor, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, and methane. These gases intercept a portion of that heat energy and trap it in the atmosphere. Now, in a balanced atmosphere, just enough heat is trapped to keep the air temperature nice and comfortable. But in recent decades, CO2 concentrations have exploded. The excess CO2 has led to excess heat trapped in the atmosphere and temperatures that are becoming too hot. Where's the excess CO2 coming from? Well, burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas. CO2 is one of the main byproducts of that process. But there is hope. It just so happens that the Earth is resilient. It can and does absorb CO2 out of the atmosphere, offsetting our emissions. The problem is we're producing more of it than the Earth can reclaim. We're out of balance. And our challenge is to find a way to lower CO2 emissions to a level where the Earth can reclaim as much as is produced. Only then will we regain that balance, that equilibrium, a condition known as carbon neutral. And only then will temperatures level off. To become carbon neutral, we have to burn less fossil fuels. Now, it is a daunting task, but it is possible. As a society, it requires a mass transition to clean energy like wind and solar, but we can reduce our individual carbon footprint by making thoughtful choices in how we live and saying no to plastic.
Thanks, Dave. To help you reduce your carbon footprint, think about eliminating single-use plastics in your day-to-day life. One way to start is by visiting a refillery. It's a store that offers household and personal care items in bulk, eliminating packaging waste. You provide the container, the refillery provides the product. Meteorologist Rafael Miranda takes us inside one in Westchester County.
Reduce, reuse, refill? Yes, refilleries are rising in popularity as an eco-friendly alternative to traditional shopping.
It's just great because you can use less plastic, less waste, and, every little bit helps.
The concept is simple, but new to many. When you run out of laundry detergent or soap or shampoo, instead of buying a new bottle, you head down to the refillery to refill the container. Co-owners Heather and Jacqueline say reducing single-use plastics is their mission. Plastics aren't a uniquely American problem. In fact, Heather found inspiration abroad.
I started researching and I saw this model store was really prevalent in the UK and Canada, and I thought, well, why couldn't I open something like that here in Hastings? It would definitely do well. So I started asking my friends, am I crazy? Am I crazy? And you're like, no, it's a great idea. Let's do it. So here we are.
The end result? A small but jam-packed boutique with everything from dishwashing detergent to sunscreen and many, many pumps.
I love the fact that you can reduce your plastic consumption. You can refill, you can bring your own bottles, or if you don't have your own bottle, they have bottles here that you can use.
The goal is to increase accessibility to environmentally friendly products. I asked a customer if it was at all inconvenient to BYOB.
For me, absolutely not, because it's really just part of my day of life. It's so easy. It's so easy.
What about good old-fashioned plastic recycling? Across the river in Valhalla, Lou Vitrone says Westchester County is getting it right.
Fortunately, here in Westchester, we've been able to continue to recycle the vast majority of all the plastics we receive from our residents.
Despite that good news, small plastics like utensils still pose a big problem. They are often too small for the recycle sorting machinery and end up in the trash. That's where legislation comes in.
County Executive George Latimer and the Board of Legislators, they took action last year and they enacted the single-use plastics law here in Westchester.
Not an outright ban on plastic forks and spoons. The law requires businesses to only provide these items if the customer specifically requests them, cutting down on waste. Different approaches to a common goal, to reduce our dependency on plastics.
I care about the planet, I care about the earth. I have a child, and not just for my child, but for the entire next generation. I want them to have a livable planet.
Happy Earth Day, everyone. Rafael Miranda, News 4 New York.
Still need some encouragement to try and reduce your plastic or single-use waste? Here are just a few takeaways. According to Clean Hub, humans create 400 million tons of plastic waste each year, and around half of the plastic manufactured is single-use. It's estimated that 100,000 marine animals are killed by plastic waste each year, and up to 1 million people die each year from illnesses and diseases linked to plastic waste pollution. Growing up, you likely heard the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle when it comes to ways to help the environment. Well, so far, we've explained reducing and reusing. Now we want to focus on recycling. Do you know what can and can't be recycled? I recently went to Bergen County for a look at how communities recycle the traditional curbside materials, as well as all those other things that you may have forgotten about. We all know the usual suspects when it comes to recycling. Plastic water bottles, glass, newspapers, cardboard. But did you know that sneakers, crayons, even trees can be recycled? The village of Ridgefield Park, New Jersey sure does. And last year, they were honored by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection.
My daughter found it on social media and showed it to me. And then we had to decide how we were going to submit it. The whole town is part of it, so we submitted as a town.
Barbara and Leslie Olson, who's chair of Sustainable Jersey Ridgefield Park, work very hard to help ensure the residents here are getting it right.
There's a downloadable app called Recycle Coach that communities can sign up for, and residents in the community sign up for. They download it on their phone, so they will know when their next trash pickup is, when their next yard waste pickup is, when their next recycling pickup is. So it's a great application, and we promote the heck out of it.
There's weekly garbage and recycle pickup for plastic and glass bottles and aluminum cans. Everything else can be dropped off here, or residents can call for unusual items. You name it, they take it.
You can bring your garbage down, you can bring styrofoam, you can bring used motor oil, tires, yard waste, appliances, computers, batteries.
And then there are the items that don't belong in the recycle bin.
Common misconception is the plastic bags that you buy a case of water in. You cannot throw the plastic bag out with the water bottles. They are not the same type of recyclable material.
Another is packaging foam. Don't throw it out with the cardboard from your delivery. They have to be separate. This is EPS, expanded polystyrene. It's your basic packaging foam that maybe your TV comes packaged in. But it's also recyclable. It goes into this densifier like this and ends up like this.
There's a lot of materials that are polystyrene. It's a clear, hard plastic without the air. So essentially this takes the air out of it. That's really what it does.
And later, this same material can become crown molding for your home or picture frames. The town also has pickups for furniture and appliances. And practically everyone in the community is on the same page. And they encourage other communities by leading by example. They say recycling, it's a lot easier than you think.
Some people think it's harder than it is, too, to do. And once they start doing it, they realize it's not an inconvenience at all.
When you think of going green, you probably don't immediately think of arcade games. But one bar in Brooklyn is hoping to change your mind. Not only does Barcade in Williamsburg offer fun games and refreshing beers, but they are at the forefront when it comes to conserving energy and minimizing waste. News 4's Ida Siegel explains.
The flashing colors and pumped up players make Barcade look like, well, an ordinary arcade, but the color green is at the heart of their business model here. Everything here is designed with the environment in mind, according to co-creator Paul Kermizian.
I felt a certain responsibility environmentally, so we sort of evolved over time with that.
From the refurbished bar to composting and the LED lights, the creators of this chain of adult video game restaurants have gotten the seal of approval from the Green Restaurant Association. All their beer is on tap, no bottles to recycle, just kegs to fill and return.
Yeah, people were very confused by that. They wanted a bottle of Corona or can of Bud Light, and we didn't have any of that stuff. So it was an education for, us and our employees and also for customers.
When you own an arcade, you know you're going to use a lot of electricity, but all of the Barcade locations source their electricity from wind power. And no, they don't have windmills on the roof.
We do feature our wind power on our beer menu. And a lot of people will look up outside and look for our windmills on the roof, which don't exist.
The wind power gets purchased through Con Edison for a higher price. Being green requires effort and some extra money.
As a business owner, especially one with the electrical draw that we have here with 50 video games running at all times, it really just kind of kept me up at night a little bit about thinking about what our impact might be on the electrical grid.
They've reduced their annual carbon footprint by saving more than 600,000 kilowatts per hour of electricity. more than 1.4 million gallons of water, and 400,000 pounds of waste. And they've done well despite the extra cost. Barcade now has 9 locations in the Northeast and a 10th on the way.
As like a business owner, it's kind of like a leap that you have to take that you're going to spend a little bit more money, but I sleep better at night.
The creators can sleep well at night while the patrons have fun, and the earth gets a little break. Reporting from Williamsburg, Ida Siegel, News 4, New York.
Still ahead, fighting fast fashion. We're taking a look at how a small fashion company is making big steps for sustainability. Plus, we'll show you how to compost your food scraps so your leftover peels and leaves don't end up rotting in a landfill. And restoring native habitats and cultivating organic food, the local initiative that's taking pride in caring for the environment while providing for the community. The importance of changing our lifestyle to battle climate change and preserve the Earth's environment has never been more important. Carbon dioxide emissions continue to climb, and so do our temperatures. In the 100 years from 1880 to 1980, temperatures rose on average about 0.14 a degree per decade. Since 1980, that rate has more than doubled. And as a result, the top 10 hottest years on record globally, according to NOAA, have been the last 10 years, with 2023 topping the list. The trend continues in 2024. In the first 2 months of the year, temperatures are running almost 2.5 degrees above the 20th century average. And if this pace continues, 2024 will take over the #1 spot. So now is the time for us to start making lifestyle choices that are more environmentally conscious. And when it comes to the worst offenders of polluting the planet, the fashion industry has historically been near the top of the list. With the rise of fast fashion, brands often overproduce clothing, and the unsold merchandise ends up in a landfill. Meteorologist Violetta Yas headed to Soho, where one fashion brand has found a way to eliminate all that waste.
What is the cost of your wardrobe? What you paid for it is one thing, but the environmental cost is often much higher. According to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, annual greenhouse emissions from the fashion industry amount to more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. Without some industry-wide change, they say sector emissions could rise by more than 60% by 2030.
It's really important for us to kind of understand the scale and scope of the fashion and related area industries, because the fashion industry itself is actually noted as kind of our second largest polluter. And we don't think of it necessarily in that way because we see very different pieces of it.
So how do we in this global hub of fashion and luxury make our closets more environmentally friendly? You don't have to go as far as you think. Legendary retailer Mickey Drexler is currently chairman of Alex Mill, a boutique clothing store in Soho, first established by his son Alex in 2012 with a focus on high-quality T-shirts.
Alex and their teams work on putting remnant fabrics, leftover fabrics, maybe we had too many of this. So if you look at our collections, we do rework ourselves.
After spending decades as CEO of Gap, J.Crew, and other retailers, Mickey is now embracing his son Alex's more modern approach to fashion. Less is more, eco-conscious textile practices, and even upcycling programs to drastically limit waste and overstock.
I'm Alice Park. I'm Women's Design Director here at Alex Mill.
The clothing here is made using botanical dyes from things like pomegranate and indigo, and genuine Carozzo buttons made from the seeds of the Tagua palm tree.
Anything we have overstock of, we've been partnering up with local artisans on local dye houses to make something new and cool out of them. This is one of our sweatshirts. We work with Green Matters, which is a natural dye house in New Jersey. And this is all from a natural material. It just takes a beautiful color.
Paying attention to these small details in your clothing can lead to big changes.
This is another piece. It used to be a long sleeve blouse. She cut them off, took trims from another clothing. She upcycled the elastic from another garment that could have gone to landfill, and she turned this into a really beautiful blouse.
Of course, you don't need to buy all new clothes just to be more environmentally friendly.
I think it's worth sitting with your wardrobe for like a minute and just kind of examine what you already have. And then setting intentions for yourself, like, okay, what are the things that I really need or I want?
If you are buying new clothes or taking a look at your closet, be more intentional and try to stick with the classics. Be careful with following too many trends. That clothes is more likely to end up in landfills in the long run. Also, look for natural fibers like cotton and linen. After all, it's going to take our collective effort on more than just one day to demand a more sustainable supply chain.
Earth Month it should be Earth Life, but it became important over the last number of years, and I think it's been a very positive impact.
Violet Ayas, News 4 New York.
More and more communities are embracing composting. Here in New York City, the Department of Sanitation has launched what they call curbside composting. Meteorologist Matt Brickman gives us a closer look.
So easy. Just take a plastic bag, throw in your scraps, your Brussels sprout leaves, your orange peels, whatever. Put it in the freezer. That's all you do.
I'll be honest, living in a New York City apartment where space is a constant issue, I've never thought of composting as easy, but there's one part of town that seems to have it figured out.
Battery Park City Authority started composting in the 90s, and so the technology and the processes have changed a bit, but we've been composting for a really long time.
Turning the auger on and the carriage on.
And they've gotten really good at it.
Over 74,000 pounds was produced from this machine.
That's just last year. This is the appeal of composting. Take something that was going to end up in a landfill and turn it into something useful.
So do you drive around thinking like, that's my tree? I did that. Yeah. You do?
All right, Matt, come on over this way.
In this case, food for flowers and trees. Your trash beautifying your neighborhood.
This is going to be the 100% natural and organic fertilizer.
What I love about this is that it's a way that individuals can really make a difference.
So this is great. Here's a program that's good for the planet and has been working for decades. And you might have heard, the rest of New York City is about to get in on the fun.
This is a very real, very concrete, and for most of New York City, very new thing that they can do to make a difference.
The Department of Sanitation launched what they call curbside composting in Queens and Brooklyn over the last couple of years. The rest of the city will join the program this October.
We like to say, if you eat it or you grow it, you can throw it.
DSNY's aim is to keep more of what New Yorkers throw out from ending up in the landfill, where it'd rot and produce methane, a number they say has essentially plateaued over the last 15 years.
Every day, we put 44 million pounds of trash bags on our curbs. Over a third of the material in the trash bags is organic material.
But unlike Battery Park City's programs, not all the DSNY compostables end up in parks. Right now, they say about 20% is turned to soil. The other 80% is processed to generate energy.
We have a connection with National Grid through our Department of Environmental Protection at our wastewater treatment plant. And so they'll just send that energy out onto the grid, and it'll go to heat our homes.
It's not a perfect system, but after decades of talking about composting, the city is finally doing something.
I think people are confronted by climate despair and just don't know what to do, what they can possibly do. But if you can compost, you are making a difference.
Matt Brickman, News 4 New York.
When we take care of our Earth, it can take care of us in return. By restoring natural habitats, organic food can be produced and given back to the community. Meteorologist Maria LaRosa went to a farm in Montclair, New Jersey that's doing just that.
In the heart of Essex County, New Jersey, you'll find an organic oasis, the Montclair Community Farm. It's a hands-on resource educating people through urban farming. One way, composting. Last year, the farm kept thousands of pounds of food waste out of the landfill by turning it into a natural fertilizer, which then went right back into growing its produce.
some scary looking in there sometimes, but I feel happy about doing it, and I'm helping the planet in this small way.
Thinking about the big picture, saving the environment, climate change can seem really overwhelming, but you can still do your part. And the advice, whether it's starting a compost pile or a native garden, start small.
Everything that we do here on our site can actually be replicated in the backyard garden or even on a patio. Just having one raised bed, you don't have to go crazy, and you can actually grow almost 16 different varieties of plants in one tiny little space. These are just regular 2x8 or 2x10 foot boards from Home Depot. I think that everybody has an inherent ability to grow food. If you're a rookie gardener and maybe you're getting to know plants, for example, I would say start with an herb garden. Sage, mint, rosemary, thyme, maybe some oregano. And the secret with those, they're naturally grown in the Mediterranean area. It's very dry out there. So if you forget to water your plants here and there, they're very forgiving. Then you can kind of like take the next step and maybe grow something that has a shorter growing window, like lettuce, for example, or radishes.
Or try fast-growing asparagus.
These are ready to go. So if you just snap one off, you feel that crisp, and then there's just something special about eating something right out of the garden. The sweetness, it's tender, it's juicy, it's full of nutrients.
Unexpected. Also, perhaps a little unexpected, is the old adage, less is more, applies to nurturing earth-friendly lawns and gardens.
It's okay when leaves fall. It's okay when the pine cones fall. They actually create protective barriers that can help with your weeds.
It's known as native gardening, letting nature guide your choices, picking and choosing plants in locations that don't fight against what happens naturally. You ultimately use fewer resources, like fertilizers and water, all better for the environment.
Perhaps our eye is not trained to think it should look that way. You don't have to leaf bag everything in the fall. When we go down that manicured lawn route, we're actually taking away from spaces that natural animals and even insects can be part of that are supposed to help really thrive and make these environments grow. I'm going to give a suggestion that I did at my own home is starting with things like swamp milkweed and echinacea. They attract butterflies and other species, and they're really easy to grow. We've put them all over these native gardens. I have mine at home like in a pile of rocks, and they still grow.
And attracting pollinators like bees is critical. According to the United Nations, 75% of the world's crops depend at least partly on pollinators like bees, and their numbers are threatened by a changing climate and habitat loss.
People are asking the questions, what can I do to support the local environment? What can I change about my habits or my garden? I feel like we have that conversation a lot.
So this Earth Day, don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk through your nature-loving, more earth-friendly garden. In Montclair, New Jersey, I'm Storm Team 4 meteorologist Maria LaRosa.
Thank you for joining us. For all of our Earth Day coverage, jump on NBCNewYork.com/Earth Day. Remember, it's not too late to save our planet. The small steps you take today will make a cleaner, healthier future for generations to come.